This is Captain Dirty here, and I'm coming at you with a new series. We're going to start doing some Captain Dirty reacts. And I think I'm going to start the series off with the Inside Star Citizen Doing Time that released just last week. Full disclosure, I have seen this before, but I thought it was interesting and had some cool stuff that we can talk about here. It would be a good start to the series, so here we go.
The stand system has seen many changes since the persistent universe first came online. It's grown, expanded, been reshaped and reformed, and it continues to evolve with each successive patch. And while the upcoming Pyro system and our journey to 4.0 is a big focus for everyone around, it's important to keep an eye on the present and continue to iterate on and improve upon what's come before. And this week's show focuses on the work of the mission feature team in doing just that. Now up first, Space Station Korea, old stalwart of PvP in the stand system, is about to get a makeover both in looks and in restored purpose.
Okay, so I think this could be cool. I think Security Post Korea was interesting when I first started playing Star Citizen, but it's such a dangerous proposition currently to clear your crime stat there that I did that a few times and then decided that there were better options available. But let's hear what he has to say here.
Back in its heyday, Korea used to be this big central hub for PvP,
which has multiple entrances and exits and is just perfect for that kind of gameplay.
When we added the UGFs and added some of the security depots where you could go and hack away your crime stat, kind of took away from Korea's unique PvP draw.
And we've decided that we want to give players a taste of what Korea used to be like.
Yeah, you can see, if you've never been to Korea, by some of those clips, look how open this is, right? If you're clearing your crime stat, you're somewhere in the middle of this vast room with 4 entrances on the bottom floor and a second floor with windows on every side. Your enemies, potential bounty hunters or other players or whatever, could come from anywhere at any time. And there's sometimes some NPCs that will be around here, although they really haven't been too difficult to deal with in the past. But the AI does seem to be slowly improving, so that might not always be the case.
Taste of what Korea used to be like.
Korea is a security outpost that was meant for Crusader security to kind of have as their base of operations. Unfortunately, it ended up not being fit for living and working there.
It's been abandoned by Crusader. The uses the player can have there is there's a few missions they can take there to kill, stragglers, nine-tails. They can go there to hack away their crime stat. There's some loot there as well, so players do go there to loot.
However, now, if you approach Korea, you're going to immediately notice Crusader has moved in at this point.
They're going to be using this facility as it was intended. And the way they're doing this, and we're doing this to hopefully entice PvP at this location, is we're firstly beefing up the exterior security of Korea.
You will be met with new online turrets that will not be too happy with you arriving.
Okay, so that's interesting. That means you'll have to get a little bit more creative when, unlawfully approaching Security Post Korea. I wonder if they'll give some players clearance, right? Like if you're a bounty hunter or something like that, maybe you get clearance to go there and the turrets don't shoot at you. That might be interesting. I do think, though, that the So they need to make the turrets a little bit more dangerous, maybe, but also not so dangerous that, maybe a small group of 2 or 3 players, in either like light fighters or maybe a Connie or something larger than that, can't just take them out with some amount of effort. But I think it should be difficult enough to delay them for a little while, right? So that you can't just buzz in and out, knock the turrets down, go in, do what you need to do, and just get out of there before people can respond to that.
It's now going to be even harder for people to approach and land. When you get there to land, you might find some enemies on the landing pad to thwart your infiltration of Korea. When you're inside Korea, there'll be Crusader security all around that you'll have to take out if you want to use that station.
That's one of the other things about doing this sort of thing, right? If you're going to go clear your crime stat, just by attempting to do that, you're going to pick up probably a CS5 if you didn't have it already. You're killing half a dozen or more space cops, right? So if you mess up, then your jail sentence will be even longer, right? So there is some risk and reward here. Let's see what else they have to say.
After killing a few of them, a security chief will spawn.
Now, if you take this guy down and you look around, he will have a security code on him.
You can take his datapad off, operate his terminal, and then start this contraband dispenser.
It's a device that goes into Korea's storage facility and pulls up contraband that was deposited by the law enforcement.
Okay, so I think this is actually a great idea. It takes the best things, I think, that came out of Jumptown 2.0, and makes it, I think, a little bit more realistic, right? Instead of as much stuff as you can fit onto your cargo deck, you get X amount of stuff that pops out of this dispenser. You grab however much you can carry, and then you get out of there. You don't have to, there's no incentive to camp it. I think that's important. It will mean that there's a tighter time frame for people to respond, and it's more likely that people will just be successful at doing this. So I think that will obviously increase the amount of people that attempt it.
And the great thing about that is obviously we've got some highly valuable drugs in the game. We're making even more highly prohibited and expensive goods, as well as scrap. Just we'll throw some worthless rubbish in there, so it's an absolute gamble.
Okay, I don't like that so much. There should be some variety in what's coming out of there, but I think it needs to be consistently worth it for people to do it, right? If you go through the trouble of taking out the turrets, killing the NPCs, dealing with the player bounty hunters and PvPers that show up, and then you get to the final boss and you kill him and you take his key card and go open this up and crap comes out, that very well may be the last time you do this game loop. Which is unfortunate, right? You want these things to continue to have playability. So I think there definitely needs to be, at least, you need to get some kind of reward out of it.
You'll still be able to wipe your crime stat there. That is always going to be wanted at Korea. But the new thing we've done is we've removed the UGF crime stats. You will no longer be able to go to a UGF to wipe it.
Obviously, that's going to focus criminals and like law enforcement, those who roleplay law enforcement, into that area.
Okay, not crazy about this. I remember when criminal players had both Levski and Grimhex as places where you could lay low and rearm, repair, sell your goods, buy new stuff, right? And that was great. That meant if you had a dedicated bounty hunter chasing you around, they had to do a little bit of guesswork or it's going to at least make things just a little bit more difficult for them to find you. Now that we only have Grim Hex, bounty hunters can just like camp there, and that may be a fairly reliable way of encountering criminal players, because that's the only place where they can spawn, and the only station where they can land. So when you do this to the crime stat clearing mechanism, you're going to increase the amount of PvP interactions that occur when people are clearing their crime stats. Like, definitely that's going to happen. That's definitely a net negative for the criminal player base, right? This is an L. It's going to make it, to be honest with you, if you're going and clearing your crime stat through a bunker or at SPK right now, you're probably doing it because you enjoy that FPS game loop, not because it's the most efficient way to deal with your crime stat. Currently, the fastest way is to just go to jail and do some O2 missions. Even if you have a CS5, you can deal with that relatively quickly, much more quickly and reliably than a bunker mission, say.
But we decided that still wasn't enough. We'd been looking for a way to give players their first ever kind of player-triggered mission.
When this location goes under attack, which is when a certain amount of the AI that are defending the location are killed.
So it's not the first ever player-triggered mission. That's kind of a fib. It's been a while since I've done any of the ComStat missions, but at least as recently as 3.15, say, if you went to a comm satellite and you took or you disable that ComSat, there is a mission that is triggered by that action that sends other players to that ComSat. Now, the timeframes don't really work out, because the player who disables the ComSat has every incentive to leave and no incentive to stay. So you very rarely actually had PvP encounters there, but it did happen from time to time. But I think this is definitely a much more serious effort to achieve that, for sure.
And broadcast will be put out to all bounty hunters, anyone who is a lawful player, to come to this location and remove the threat at that location. However, don't get greedy and pick up any of the contraband. You might just be marked as one of those bad players.
So I think players who've been with us for a while will be really excited to hear what we're doing with Korea.
This is going to pull everyone to this one location to have battles.
It's open, it's functional, and it's going to serve as a dangerous hotspot for both criminal and lawful players alike.
Okay, so this place is a death trap. Just look at that. I mean, I know I said it before, but the place where you go clear your crimes out, I mean, hopefully they change it, because it's just not reasonable to expect to sit in the center of this room for any longer than like 5-10 seconds, when you've got player missions sending people here, bounty hunters, if they're if you've got a crime stat and you're clearing it, bounty hunters may already be following you out here. You got the NPCs, right? I mean, your odds here of successfully clearing your crime stat are probably dismally low, honestly. I mean, I don't know. It's been so long since I've done it. I think now maybe you only clear like one thing, so it maybe goes a little faster. But I remember, back when I tried this, a year ago, if you had a CS5 and you had 2 or 3 pages worth of crimes, you'd be sitting there for like 10 minutes trying to clear all of your crimes. If it's the case that it takes that long, forget about it. this will be something that people do once or twice for kicks, and then they'll just go and deal with their crime stats in a much more efficient way. So yeah, hopefully they've dealt with that. I'll need to double check on that. And does anybody know? Let me know in the comments actually if I'm right about that they changed the clearing so that it's only one thing, and once you've done that, it clears your crime stat. Or is it still a big long list of crimes that you have to go through?
Restoring Korea to its former glory is just one of several steps being taken recently to provide improved opportunities for PvP combat in the persistent universe. And we're going to check in on its visual makeover as it progresses later this quarter. But now, let's turn our attention to prisons, or maybe just one prison in particular. That home too often a home for those who break Stanton's laws intentionally, or who just stare at an elevator the wrong way. Let's go back to the mission feature team and discuss the ways they're currently exploring to bring new ways of escaping Kleischer's all too familiar grasp.
So currently in prison, there are 4 ways to get out. You can wait, you can mine, you can escape, and finally we added a mission where you can go and repair things for Kleischer, and they'll give you merits for doing so. But we don't believe that's enough variety, so we're working on more ways to complete your sentence.
Okay, I think this is cool. Of the 4 methods that they listed, there are only 2 that I ever do. One is to just wait it out. So if you're a criminal player, right, so you're a pirate, a lot of pirates like to operate without crime stat. It makes everything a lot easier. You don't deal with bounty hunters. People don't automatically suspect you when you show up on the scene. But you may pick one up in the course of your play session. So a lot of times what I would do, what I still do, is I'll intentionally send myself to jail when I'm ready to turn in for the night. So usually just ramming a space station does it, or I let the space station turret kill me. Then I finish, and when I come back the next day, I'm good to go, right? So that's actually a great way to clear your crime stat. The other way is if you're not ready to call it a night, you take 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes running O2 missions, and unless you've got a really bad crime stat, you'll be out of there, right? Longest probably would be maybe an hour, right? I really dislike the escape. It's been a buggy nightmare ever since it's been introduced. I don't think it's gotten any kind of serious attention. And if you do manage the escape, you've then got to have somebody to pick you up and fly you out, and you've still got your crime stat, right? So you haven't actually cleared your crime stat yet. You've then got to go do a bunker mission, or go to SBK where you're just going to die and go back to Kleischer, right? So that is by far the least efficient way to do it, but it may be the most immersive game loop. I just hate platforming, and especially janky ass, buggy, desyncy platforming. I did the escape once and was like, okay, that was cool. I'm glad I did it. I'm never doing that again. Hopefully that gets fixed. I know some people are like pros at it, but yeah, that was just not an enjoyable experience for me at all. The other way is mining, which I've never done. It's just not as efficient as running the O2 missions. So you might as well just go do those.
The prison caves in particular can feel like quite a lonely place. They're very dark, very damp. The likelihood of running into players is not particularly high, especially because there's 3 different routes.
So straight out of the gate, the first thing we're investigating is NPC prisoners in the caves. Currently, the caves are pretty empty. The only person in there is Auralia, and we want to expand that to have these. You'll be able to hopefully kill them if you want to risk the crime, and they might have some things that might help reduce your sentence.
Okay, that's kind of cool. being able to sneak up and like stealth kill NPCs and take their gems, that's pretty cool. I can get behind that.
We also wanted to provide more sandbox opportunities for earning merits. So some of you have noticed there's stashes dotted around the tunnels.
They can contain items that you could have bought previously from the vending machine, and they can also find themselves contraband items like prison shit.
You know, I'm gonna stop them there. They actually didn't mention there's a fifth way that you can get out of jail, and that's you have an account that has merits banked up, and you transfer merits from that account to your account. Maybe you have a forbidden alt somewhere. Don't tell CIG. And yeah, as long as they stay in jail, their merits remain. And you can get out of jail within 2 minutes if you have your alt ready to go. So yeah, that's also a thing. You know, when they say, speaking of like sandbox ways of getting out of jail, well, that's definitely one. And you could go further than that. You don't really see it right now, but I do think that there's the potential for prison gangs to exist in the future in Star Citizen, where the sole thing that they do is bank and hoard and control the flow of merit in and out of the prison. Merit's kind of a little-known secondary currency in Star Citizen, and it's far more valuable than Laranite, Quantanium, right? You can sell merits for quite a bit of money, especially if people are kind of in dire straits and they want to get out of jail quick. You can make a real quick buck like that.
We're looking at ways to have a system where players can bring back contraband and other prison-wanted items and be rewarded for it.
That's cool. I forget who, somebody a while back ran some boxes of Hadonite through, into the Klesher system through the escape route. And I don't know whether or not they were able to sell those bits of Hadonite for the merits at the mining terminal there. But I guess that would be the idea. And I think that's awesome. Right. So now that they're actually implementing that and creating some way to actually do some smuggling in the game, that's cool. That's really cool. It actually is going to give the smugglers out there or something to smuggle, which will be awesome.
We also want to investigate adding a reward for players taking out violent inmates. This will help clean the prison up and stop them from causing a ruckus, and it will also provide, the model prisoners more ways to legally and preferably pay off their crime.
Yes, that's exactly the way to do it. Is there somebody causing too much violence in the mines? Go cause some violence onto them. That's brilliant, Klesher. I love the way that they run their prison system.
To society. And for those who don't want to serve their time, we're adding a new mission into the prisons.
All criminals caught end up in Klesher, and there's lots of vital information to be recovered from there.
In a certain depth, in a certain cave, we're adding what is known as a black spot, where outside entities can contact you and ask you to do work inside of the prison.
In doing so, they will be rewarded very handsomely.
It's always great when we get...
Okay, so that's kind of cool, right? So if you have earned enough reputation and ire from the player base, right? Somebody, you end up in jail, right? And some other player in the verse can like put out a prison hit on you, or whatever, contract another player in prison to make your life more difficult as you try to escape, or whatever, assuming that's what you try to do. I think that's actually that's a pretty cool idea. I do think it might, I don't know. it will create some interesting emergent gameplay, especially when prison gangs start to emerge in the universe.
Get to revisit locations and missions after getting player feedback, and this won't be the last of updates you'll find in the prison experience.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that folks with a fondness for the old days of Korea have something familiar to look forward to. That Kleischer may...
I don't know if too many people were like, gee, I really miss going to Korea and getting sent straight to jail. I mean, I had some interesting PvP interactions there. But you needed to have a coordinated team to really be effective. Not to say that it's impossible, but the solo experience was not great.
finally get some NPC population to better obscure the same familiar faces that I keep seeing in there week after week. You know who you are. And that even with a major focus...
Although, I do want to say, just as a last little note here, all of that could change if the design of SPK also changed, and where you clear your crime stat happens, right? If that's in a more defensible location, and then you have to fight your way out to the landing pads, that's awesome. But if you're still stuck in the middle where you're basically just a target, yeah, forget it. Nobody's going to want to do that.
Focus pushing ahead, it's important we look back, iterate on what's come before, and continue to evolve all aspects of Star Citizen along the way. Now don't forget that Ship Showdown has begun, and it's your chance to advocate for the best of the best in Star Citizen ships and vehicles, for a chance to win exclusive paints and prestige, and for us to bet internally.
Here comes the drama. Yeah, let me know in the comments below which ship you think's gonna win.
On how we think you'll vote. I was so close last year. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee, here in the Bonded Warehouse, our neighbors at the new Manchester goods yard, who were kind enough to let us in when the rain showed up. We'll see you all next week from who knows where.
Okay, well, that is the first video. Thanks everybody for tuning in to Captain Dirty Reacts, and we will be coming back at you with another one of these before too long.